Most people think that fat loss is simple. Just eat less, move more, right? But what if the reason you're stuck has nothing to do with calories and everything to do with stress? Because when your body's under stress from poor sleep, too much cardio, or too little food, it doesn't see that as discipline. It can see that as danger. So in this video, I'm going to cover how stress impacts your body's ability to lose fat and build muscle, and why things like poor sleep, too much cardio, and intermittent fasting even can actually make things harder on you, and ultimately how to find a healthy balance that gets your metabolism back on track. And if you're a parent or someone that works late, do not worry, you are not a lost cause. I'll be sharing ways to manage the effects with different habits throughout the video. So just make sure that you stick to the end so that you don't miss anything. So the first concept I want to cover is the allostatic load, because stress isn't bad. It helps us grow stronger. You'd never get stronger if you didn't stress your muscles. But when we don't recover, when we're running on caffeine, 4 hours of sleep, 7 workouts a week, it's pretty easy to burn out. So the allostatic load is a way to think about the body's need for homeostasis. When your body gets pushed too far, it has to adapt just to survive. And it's not just working out that is stressful. The brain white labels stress. So if you have a stressful day at work, your grandpa's in the hospital, you have a fight with your spouse, a hard workout while under eating, that's 5 stressors that you're going to need to recover an equal amount for. Without recovery, cortisol, your main stress hormone, stays high. Chronically high cortisol increases ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, decreases testosterone and leptin, and lowers insulin sensitivity. Translation: your metabolism adapts. Your hormones get out of whack, you lose muscle, and your metabolism slows down, making it easier for your body to store fat. And this actually happened to me a couple of years ago. My grandma was on her deathbed, and at the same time, I was planning a wedding with my fiance, training 2 times a day for a high rocks event, and dealing with a lot of stress at work. And it got to a point to where I was having frequent panic attacks after workouts because my entire nervous system was in fight or flight, and I was not able to get into a recovery state, which is why it's so important to take a holistic perspective of your stressors. And so next, what I want to dive into is how sleep impacts fat loss. The most underrated performance and body composition enhancing drug is sleep. Sleep is your recovery system. Your brain needs it, your muscles need it, and your cells need it to keep the metabolism thriving. What's crazy is that even short-term sleep loss can wreck the balance. A 2010 study found that after 1 week of sleeping just 4 hours per night, young men showed higher levels of cortisol, lower levels of glucose tolerance, similar to pre-diabetic levels. Another 2012 study out of the University of Chicago found that a 30% drop in insulin sensitivity was found after just 4 days of poor sleep, and a 16% lower total insulin response was found as well. 2025 study out of the Journal of Sleep Research found that just 2 nights of 4 hours of sleep increased ghrelin, the hunger hormone, by 28% and decreased leptin, the fullness hormone, by 18%. And if that wasn't enough data for you, a 2010 study found that when dieters cut sleep from 8.5 to 4.5 hours, they lost 55% less fat, even though calories were equated. And so poor sleep not only makes you crave more food, it makes your body worse at metabolizing it. And now I know that not everyone can control this, their sleep schedule. I've got a young kid and my sleep was off for several months. One of my clients, Brandon, recently had a newborn on top of a toddler, which impacted his sleep and recovery. So what we did is we pulled his workouts from 5 times a week to 3 times a week with shorter sessions so that he was able to recover, maintain that calorie deficit, and still continue to lose weight because we were controlling the stressors that we could. And if you want to learn more about how we support people like Brandon, check the link down in the description or down in the pinned comment. Next thing I want to talk about is how sleep impacts muscle and performance, because sleep doesn't just affect fat loss, it hits your muscle too. Testosterone helps build and protect muscle tissue, but when you sleep less, testosterone drops and cortisol rises. And that's a catabolic combo, which means that it's going to break you down. In a 2015 study from the Journal of American Medical Association, young healthy men who slept just 5 hours a night for an entire week saw their testosterone levels drop 10 to 15%. And as you age, testosterone naturally falls about 1 to 3% per year after the age of 35 to 40. Combine that with low sleep, too much cardio, and muscle mass is going to drop fast. And that's a problem because muscle drives your metabolism. Skeletal muscle handles about 80% of your body's insulin response, meaning when your muscle gets weaker or insulin resistant, your whole entire metabolism is going to slow down in its ability to process carbohydrates. This is also why aging and stress often leads to sarcopenia, a loss of muscle and mitochondrial function. One of the other benefits that isn't mentioned a ton with muscle is just how much it can store glycogen. For every gram of glycogen, your body's going to also store about 3 grams of water. So more muscle means more storage of glucose in that form of glycogen rather than storing that as fat. It's like having a higher carrying capacity in fallout before becoming over encumbered. So in short, less muscle means a slower metabolism, a decreased functionality as you age, and ultimately lead to more fat storage. Next, I want to talk about how cardio impacts your stress levels. Now, cardio is good, but too much of it can backfire. Exercise raises cortisol, but recovery allows it to come back down. When you struggle to recover, that cortisol stays high and your body breaks down muscle instead of fat. A 2008 study found that at 60% and 80% VO2 max intensity, cortisol levels increased by 40 and 83%, while low intensity, 40% VO2 max, caused no change. When combined with poor sleeping, overtraining, or undereating, cardio turns from fat burning to stress stacking. That is why low intensity, steady state cardio is such a game changer for fat loss. Something as simple as walking helps you expend more energy without having a recovery bill due at the end of your session. Think of cardio like a credit card. You can use it to get great results, but if you never fully recover, you end up in debt, and that taxes your body extra. Next, I want to talk about fasting hunger and the stress multiplier, because fasting is something that a lot of people turn to when they want to lose fat quick. And I want to break this down because there's a bit of nuance here, because fasting can be a really powerful tool for fat loss and establishing a structured intake that some people find it easier to follow. If stress in other areas are managed, it can lower decision fatigue and allow you to focus on other areas of your life. But when stress is already high, fasting can become gasoline on a fire. You see, when you're stacking fasting on top of poor sleep, anxiety, and overtraining, you're compounding stress. Over time, cortisol suppresses thyroid and testosterone, two key fat-burning hormones. And when cortisol and ghrelin both stay high, it triggers that stress eating and that late-night snacking. That's why you can be good all day with intermittent fasting and still find yourself raiding the pantry at 9 p.m., meaning you hardly ate all day. You felt hungry, except for that 2-hour window when you put down 4,000 calories. And this isn't a knock on fasting, more so the method may not work for you if you find yourself in a high stress environment. You'll get the same benefits of fasting so long as you're in a calorie deficit. Here's the good news. You can totally fix this. The answer isn't more cardio or less food. It's better recovery. Sleep, we're going to cover this first. Aim for 7 to 8 hours minimum, but optimize for going to bed with the dark and rising with the light. That's your metabolic reset button. Block out light. This allows you to sync your circadian rhythms. Cool it down. The ideal temperature is 65 to 68 degrees. Keep a consistent sleep schedule. Set an alarm time for when you wake up, when you go to bed, and weekends and weekdays. Staying up late on the weekends is equivalent to flying from New York to LA every weekend. Think sex and sleep. That's all the bed should be used for. Arousal decreases cortisol because it puts you in a parasympathetic state. Naps, if you can take them, 20-minute naps in the afternoon can help. Wind down routines. Go with a hot shower, meditation, breath work. That can be a game changer. Then there's the 3-2-1 principle. Stop working out 3 hours before bed to downregulate your nervous system. Stop eating 2 hours before bed to get your food digested. And then stop screens 1 hour before bed. Limit caffeine intake to 2 p.m. Limit alcohol intake. Even 2 drinks will decrease your sleep quality by 24%. And then track your sleep with something like a Whoop to record your sleep data. Now let's get into strength. Aim for strength training 3 to 4 times a week to give your body days to recover. Within those sessions, try extending your rest periods 2 to 3 minutes and focus on multi-joint movements like pulls, presses, rows, lunges, hinges, and squats for 6 to 12 reps. Track what you're putting in your body to ensure that you're getting enough protein and carbs to support recovery. Manage stress through walking, morning sunlight, and meditation or breathing exercises to slow down your nervous system. I've got a few meditations on this channel that I will link below in the description. And then finally, be patient. Fat loss isn't a sprint, it's a rebuild. Think of this entire process of moving your metabolism from a creaky old wood mill to a new state-of-the-art log chewing machine. As you find this balance, your metabolism will become more efficient and effective at losing fat, building muscle, and helping you create a body that works for you, not a body that works against you. Because fat loss isn't about fighting your body. It's about finding what works for you to work with it. To wrap this up, stress less will help you burn more. If you've been grinding harder and harder and it's getting you nowhere, less is likely more. Your body's not broken. It's just stress and burnout. Appreciate you watching. If you found this video helpful, hit that like and subscribe button, drop a comment, or share it with someone who is stuck in this loop. I'll see you guys in the next video.